there have been so many groups that come out of Dayton, and when I think about funk, the way that I hear people talk about it, you know, it's like it started with the Lakesides and the Slaves and Zapp and Roger, but I've been involved in well, not involved, but around music in Dayton since I was 12 years old. And I grew up with groups like the Moroccos and a lot of those groups from back in those days, before the Players were the Ohio Players. You know, they were the Untouchables, Robert Ward, the Untouchables. And I watched how music evolved from those guys. And Dayton has one of the things that Dayton had that was unique to Dayton was they had a lot of music in the schools, in the high schools, and there were a lot of garage bands. There were a lot of talent shows in Dayton, and a lot of these artists that, you know, when I hear about funk, you know, that's where they came from. They came out of the high schools, and they evolved into the groups that we classify as funks today. But you know, you know, I know what you want as far as to put this category together of funk, but I look at funk music as black music, and I've been on the radio since 1976, and we called it R&B. And I can remember when the Players became the Ohio Players, when they had the first part of their success. I'll also go back to Lakeside and the first part of their success. I was there when Slave first had their success. Dayton just has a rich musical history. You look at Platypus and Hakeem Stokes, you know, one of the brothers of the Stokes family from Lakeside. It's just a rich history, and you know, I'm real proud that I have been at the table, you know, at the right place at the right time, you know, to be able to spread this music. You know, WDAO, when I started, was a 50,000 watt FM station that covered from, we got down to Cincinnati, I mean to Kentucky. We got through Cincinnati into Kentucky. We, to the south, to the north, we were up to Lima. To the west, we went to Indianapolis. To the east, we got Columbus. You know, so WDAO was playing all of these artists, you know, and it spread, you know, from the Midwest to national. You know, and, you know, some people that are on the air, they claim that they helped make these groups, but I think they didn't make the groups. They were there to present this music to the listening audience. I'm proud to be from Dayton. I think at one time there were 13 major national acts that were from Dayton or out of Dayton. You know, and I don't know of any cities, to include Detroit, that had that many groups that were, you know, on the charts at the same time. Mm-hmm. A good friend of mine, who has since passed, was Roger with Zapp. And I would go to different shows with Roger and Zapp in other cities. and it would be packed. It would be sold out. But here, they didn't get the same reception here at home. And I don't know if it's because you could see Roger walking up and down the street on Salem Avenue. You know, he would, a lot of his songs he put in his head from walking the streets on Salem Avenue. He was the kind of guy that he was very approachable. You know, he would stop and talk to you. You know, he wasn't that celebrity here. But any place else, you know, people would walk up to Roger and they'd be shaking, you know, because they'd be so nervous because this big star. You know, the players, once they became the Ohio players, you could see Satch and Sugar and all of the guys on the street. So they weren't that big celebrity here at home. But when they were away from Dayton, they were bigger than life. And I've never been able to understand that. The average person, they just want something that makes them feel good. You know, a beat that makes them, that's the first thing. Before they even get into the lyrics, they want a beat that makes them feel good, a beat that they can feel. And then they go into the lyrics. It's black music. That's what we are. We're funky. You know, and it's not, and let me take that back, because it's not just black, because you had the average white band. They were funky. You know, play that funky music, white boy, you know? You know, so it's, I hate to categorize music, you know? You know, but, you know, I guess in this forum, you know, with the Funk Museum, you know, you're looking for some specifics, you know, but I think funk music is just too big to categorize and put it into a little box. I don't think you can do that. What I've been doing for the last 37 years, you know, well, I can't say the last 37 years because now I don't play music. Now I do talk. But I've got so many memories of when I did, you know, and when I was DJing, you know, in the clubs and the large parties, you know, put some funk on, put some Lakeside on the turntable and watch the floor. Put some Roger and Zapp on the turntable and watch the floor. Put some Slave on the turntable and watch the floor. But then on the same token, put some Heat Wave on. You know, is that funk? You know, that's where, you know, I have this difficulty in what is funk music. We are a big city, but we gotta catch up into our minds that that's what we are. And we gotta quit thinking like we are a little city. We're a big city. Anywhere you go in this country, if you mention Dayton, Ohio, they know who you are. They know Dayton. This is true. You know, so we have to change that thought that we are a little city. We're not. We're a big city. We're a big city that has some challenges. I had a client in a couple of weeks ago, and we went to a restaurant in the Wright Dunbar district. And after we finished with our meal, I took her over to the interpretive center. And she did not realize so much that had come out of Dayton. Like, you know, the history of the Wright brothers, the history of Paul Laurence Dunbar. She didn't realize that is right here in Dayton. You know, so it's a matter of drawing people in packaging it so that they will be interested in it, and they walk away knowing enjoying what we have lived for so many years. I met Davy D, one of my announcers. I think he was doing afternoons. He introduced me to Davy D, and Davy D was a talent agent, and he was my afternoon announcer's talent agent, and he was a part of the show, and he would call, and he had all these jobs for my afternoon announcer, you know. Yeah, Davy D would call Marco and, hey baby, look baby, I got this gig for you, and we, you know, and a character. Huh? A character. He was a character when I first met him, you know, and then through working around the city, you know, he was very, he was involved, you know, the cultural festivals, the different music events. You know, he was involved with. He was stage manager on a lot of those events. But I met Davy D before I met David Webb. If you look at music and you go back to the beginning, you know, you start to look at these cats that most of them are not here. You know, they're not with us anymore, and a lot of people don't know anything about them, and they deserve to, you know, for people to know, like the members of Lakeside. I think their home now is Los Angeles, you know, but the people here need to know who made up that group. Heatwave was a group that was all over the world. People need to know who they were. You know, Slave. Right now, I think you got 3 different slave groups out there. You know, but people need to know who made up Slave. You know, the Players. People need to know who made up the Players. You know, there is some history with those guys. Those guys they not only had some music talent, but they also had some business sense. You know, and people need to know about that. And what better place than right here, Dayton, Ohio. The group Dayton, you know, and I was talking with someone about Dayton, and I played one of their songs, Cutie Pie. And that was Dayton that did Cutie Pie. But there was another group that did Cutie Pie. And they thought they were the only ones who did Cutie Pie. You know, but we have a rich history. We have a rich history. And WDAO started in 1964. We are celebrating 50 years. 50 years. WDAO was the first FM station formatted with black music, first in the country. And we were there when that music was released. A lot of time, it wasn't even on vinyl yet. It was on these acetates, where when they finished it, these artists would run to the station with these acetate, and we would play. You know, that was before the record company was finished and had packaged it, and before it had, you know, the slick label, you know, and all of the artwork on the cover, you know, because that music was there. We were those innovators. We were an innovator. We were the ones who were. You heard it first on WDAO. And America heard a lot of this music that came out of here first, right here. So that's why. And I'm a Daytonian, proud to be a Daytonian. like I said, I was 12 years old. And all of these guys were at the Abbey Union Hall. That's where they used to practice. Satch and all these guys, Robert Ward, a lot of these musicians. That was my fondest memory. I had an uncle that was the leader of the Moroccos, saxophone player. And I just admired him. And he inspired me to play saxophone. He was my mentor, Earl McDaniel. He was my mentor. And I would babysit for them, you know, at 12 years old, his wife. And sometime he would leave his horn there. And I would be in there trying to play his horn. Then when I got up to age where I could play, like I say, he was my mentor. And he helped me with my short career as a musician. But I saw that being a local musician, it was so hard to raise a family and have any longevity and get any money from it. So I found something that I could stay with music and have a career, and that was radio. So the saxophone, it was put up, and the record albums was picked up, and that's what I've been doing since 1976. Like I said, I was 12 years old, and all of these guys were at the Abbey Union Hall. That's where they used to practice. Satch and all these guys, Robert Ward, a lot of these musicians. That was my fondest memory. I had an uncle that was the leader of the Moroccos, saxophone player. And I just admired him. And he inspired me to play saxophone. He was my mentor, Earl McDaniel. He was my mentor. And I would babysit for them, you know, at 12 years old, his wife. And sometime he would leave his horn there. And I would be in there trying to play his horn. Then when I got up to age where I could play, like I say, he was my mentor. And he helped me with my short career as a musician. But I saw that being a local musician, it was so hard to raise a family and have any longevity and get any money from it. So I found something that I could stay with music and have a career, and that was radio. So the saxophone, it was put up, and the record albums was picked up, and that's what I've been doing since 1976. Do you wanna